welcome to this short course titled Restorative Justice, a Global Movement to Transform Harm. My name is James McCarty, and I'm a professor at the Boston University School of Theology, where I also serve as director of the Tom Porter Religion and Conflict Transformation Program. I'm both a researcher and a practitioner of restorative justice, and have done so in community-based, legal system-connected, and educational settings. I've had the honor to work with many people across multiple countries in this work. I've worked with community organizers responding to gang violence in Los Angeles, post-conflict reconciliation projects in East Africa, and been a keeper of peacemaking circles in schools, grassroots organizing, and juvenile justice diversion programs. These experiences and the people whose lives and stories I've had the honor to witness in these efforts to heal what has been wounded have shaped how I think about what restorative justice is and can be, and I hope to bring their wisdom to you over the next few lectures. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that I'm recording these lectures on the lands of the Massachusetts and Wampanoag in modern-day Massachusetts, and that I learned and first practiced circle processes on Coast Salish land. In particular, the lands of the Puyallup, Muckleshoot, Duwamish, Nisqually, and Lummi in modern-day Washington State. And that the Emory Center for the Study of Law and Religion exists on Muskogee Creek land in the state of Georgia. The philosophies and practices of indigenous communities around the world have informed the development of restorative justice as a global movement. I was taught by Khmer and Lummi circle keepers who are students of Tagashinq Lingit teachers. And in my healing work, I seek to honor the people of these lands, my teachers and their teachers, and all indigenous peoples working toward resurgence, sovereignty, and liberation. My own practice of restorative justice is indebted to these teachers and is enacted as an act of solidarity with indigenous peoples and their contemporary struggles for freedom and justice. Where I fall short of being a good relation or don't go far enough in my solidarity, please forgive me and help me to move forward in a good way. So, restorative justice is understood in a variety of ways: as a philosophical project, a theological framework, an alternative way to conduct criminal justice, a set of practices applicable to a variety of settings beyond formal legal systems, and even as a way of life. And there's truth in each of these formulations. In this series of lectures, however, I hope to introduce restorative justice to you as a global social movement seeking to transform harms into opportunities for more justice, more peace, and more healing. Sometimes these harms are interpersonal, sometimes they're labeled as criminal, sometimes they're structural, and sometimes they're historical. In all of these cases, however, justice is conceived of as the repairing of harms and the healing of wounds. At the heart of restorative justice is a dual movement. The first movement is the movement of healing for those who've been harmed by others. And in the literature on this topic, you'll sometimes see those who've been harmed referred to as victims or survivors, depending on the context. And the second movement in restorative justice is the movement of accountability by those who've harmed others. Sometimes these harm doers are called offenders, perpetrators, or responsible parties in the literature. I'll use each of these terms at different times throughout these lectures, but please know right up front that in each case, the focus is on the harms experienced through specific actions rather than any kind of ontological or permanent status of those involved. The dual movements of healing and accountability are intertwined and overlap in restorative justice. When those who have caused harm take accountability, it can contribute to the healing of those who've been harmed, even as victim healing is not dependent in all ways upon the offender actions. Similarly, those who've caused harm often experience their own forms of healing when they do take practical steps of accountability in repairing the impacts of the harms they've caused. And the process of encounter, dialogue, storytelling, and other aspects of restorative practices can lead to forms of rehumanization across social and relational divides that are their own forms of healing for those involved. So in short, restorative justice is a global movement of both healing and accountability. And that is the transformation of harm. Over our time together, you'll hear stories from modern-day Canada, the United States, New Zealand, South Africa, and elsewhere. Restorative justice is not one thing or just one idea. As I've said earlier, it's a philosophical framework, a theological orientation, a set of practices, and a constellation of practitioners connected across time and space by a shared commitment to transforming injustice into justice via encounters of humanization and repair. As we work through these lectures, you'll come to understand more about what I mean by encounters of humanization and repair. But for now, I want to invite you to join us on the journey and thank you for bringing your own stories, histories, and commitments to this experience.